Hello guys, today we will be looking at this interesting endgame shown. At first glance, this may seem like a draw for black, because the pawns are isolated. Isolated pawns are pawns that are not side by side each other, and thus cannot defend one another. They are considered weaknesses, as they can easily be captured by enemy pieces, like in this case, the white king that is right in front of the pawns while the black king is too far away. But there are exceptions. Believe it or not, these pawns actually defend each other tactically. I will explain what I mean later. In order to not lose both pawns, you have to remember this formation, where both pawns are on the same rank with the enemy king 2 ranks above the pawns. When this position is achieved, we do not want to move any of our pawns, we want to wait for the white king to make a move before we do. So since we do not want and have to move our pawns, we can use this time to take the pawn with the king, and slowly approach with the king every time we get this set up. But now is when it starts to look unclear. White attacks our h-pawn, and there is no defending it, we are guaranteed to lose the pawn. But remember how I said the pawns defend each other tactically? In this position, the f-pawn does just that with f5. Now you might start to see the idea. The king can indeed take the h-pawn, but at a cost. Now nobody watches the f-pawn, so after f4 and f3, then pawn promotes into a queen and black wins. This means that while the pawn was undefended, the f-pawn was able to make compensation for it with tactics, which was what I meant by tactically defending the h-pawn. Instead of king takes h6, white has to make a move that keeps the king in the square of the pawn. The square of the pawn is a method used to calculate whether a king is able to catch a passed pawn before it promotes. To find the square of the pawn, you have to draw a diagonal line in the direction of the pawn and towards the opposing king, and complete the square then. If the king is able to step inside this box, the king is guaranteed to catch the pawn. Because of how the pawns are placed, they perfectly create a wall between the f-pawn and the king, and going around it with king g6 results in the pawn promoting. So the only move white has to not allow the pawn to promote is king h4. Now you can safely bring your king closer. Now after white goes king g3, should you continue bringing the king? No. Remember, whenever the king is 2 ranks above the pawns and on the file in between both pawns, you always want them to be on the same rank. If you don't, the king is able to capture the f-pawn before your king can defend it, and the h-pawn is not advanced enough, so the king will easily catch it. So since the king is 2 ranks above the pawns, and on the file in between them, we have to push the h-pawn forward, so that if the same move occurs, the h-pawn is now 1 square further advanced, and we get the same situation where the king has to move back. Now we may continue to bring our king closer. The king moves, now what should we play? For those of you who noticed the king is on the square where we have to push both pawns to the same rank, great job! f4 is a great move, but in this case, since our king is already quite close, we don't have to push the pawn, but use our king to prepare the red carpet for our f-pawn, and we push the pawn and win. When the white king attacks our pawn, we use our king to create the red carpet, we push, and simply control the promotion square with our king, and we promote. So that's it for today's video, see you in the next one.